Hi, and welcome to this ninth video capsule about love and love and couple life, the life in couples. Again, sorry for my English. I'll do my best. So today I wish to extend what we were talking last time about love and sexuality to the whole life of the couples, meaning the physical aspect, but the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual aspect. So there is something very important to consider: the relationship between the body and the emotion, the mental life, and the spiritual life. It's like the body is a condensation, the microcosm of a macrocosm which is our emotional, psychological, and spiritual life, our what we call our inner life. And in fact, our inner life is much bigger than this little body. But this little body, by analogy, is exactly the representation of this big world, this inner world, or this so wide world of the psyche and the spirit. So by analogy, we have seen that more we study how function our body, more we understand how function our psyche and our spirituality, because it's by analogy the condensation, the representation of a whole of the whole inner world, in small, in limited, of course, but in enough to understand how things works. So today I would like to start to bring your attention on sexuality, because it explains so much how the couple works. And something very important to know is that the genital of woman is has 8,000 sensitive fibers, and of the man just 2,000, meaning that women are 4 times more sensitive on their genitals, on the sex, than the man. This is something so important, because there is a law, a law in neurology: more there is a sensibility, less is the motricity, and less is the sensitivity, more is the motricity. Sexually is very simple to understand. Men feel less. If we take the norm on women, that the 8,000 sensitive fiber is 100%, we can see that men feel just 25% of what women feel, and for good reason, because this motricity, when you have motricity, if you feel too much, you diminish your motricity because it hurts. And so that's why men, to penetrate technically women, need to feel less, so they are able to get in. And so when we understand this, but the effect of motricity is that you always want to move, you always want to have sexuality. And so we have always this desire on men which is constant, and on women, because the motricity is less, you need to warm up. You have to be gentle in the senses, to arousal the senses. They are very fast, in fact, they react very fast, but they have to be warmed up to start the motricity. And so when the senses of women are saturated, finally they diminish the sensitivity, and so motricity can start and have an intercourse, a normal intercourse. So knowing all that, there is something very important by analogy, to understand, is that in the emotional level, this is exactly the same, but opposite. Remember, men are women, men are feminine, to be more clear, and women are masculine. So women have a low level of sensitivity in the emotional level, but a high level of motricity. So women are much more prone, all constantly, as I say, to have emotions. And they want to trigger constantly emotion. They want to emotionalize all their life. And men feel have to be warm up to answer to that, to share that, to want to do outing together and do many things together. But when they feel completely overwhelmed by this hyper emotional motricity, tendency of women. They just want to hide, escape. Like in sexuality, women tend to escape, to avoid, to be constantly, to feel the, uh, threatened by the hypersexuality of men. So it's about principle, and you will see it's when we learn to practice it on each level properly, it's become very simple on each couples. So on the mental level, it's again a bit different because men again become masculine and women feminine. So women mentally feel much more. That's why they catch much more fast all the information. You don't need to say 10 times things to women. Men, we have to say that 10 times, like I do. I insist, and probably women already catch all the principle. But as men, I need to explain and explain a lot. This is my mental motricity, and my lack of sensibility make that I think that perhaps they haven't get it. So I have to re-say it and re-say it and re-say it differently until I assume that you get it. And so to have this verbal motricity, finally, it's important to know that I have less sensitivity, emotionally talking. And spiritually, again, it's the opposite. Women are masculine and men are feminine. So men feel more. That's why they adore beauty, they adore going nature, and they are very, very sensitive, and they experience spirituality with very few things. For women, it's completely different. They have the motricity, the spiritual motricity. So they need constantly to be, they're constantly excited spiritually talking. They always want to have spirituality, to go to church, to have books, to have manuals, you know, and to learn to be more performant in their spirituality. And that creates a big tension between men and women, because guys, they get it very fast, you know, they have spiritual experience very fast if they open their heart for that, if they open the spirit. Most of the time women are very much more aggressive, and they reproach to men to not be very proactive, exactly like in sexuality. Men reproach to women to not be very proactive. They always have to do all the job, and they always want to do it. They always enjoy it. But in meantime, they wish that women, they react much more fast, and they don't. But in meantime, women feel much more on their body, everything. And in spirituality, the same. So there is a big misunderstanding between men and women, because we are polarized completely differently in each plan. So to understand better how to deal with that, it's important to understand the role, the function of each of them. The feminine function by sensitivity informs the brain of what's going on. And so it gives to the brain the ability to orient the things. Well, if it's a cold, I have to put a coat. If it's warm, I have to put a hat. And so this is my senses who direct my life. Because I've got the right information, I react in a proper way. So my senses educate my motricity. What I have to do when I feel good. And this is the beauty of the couple. When the feminine feel, it has to be transmitted to the masculine, so the feminine can educate the masculine. And finally, you have the masculine who can behave properly, very well adapted, and become much more subtle, much more, how could I say that? Efficient, but in the meantime, much more gentleman, much more educated, much more subtle. I need more word in English. So for that, the only solution is to learn to our feminine part, to dialogue, to open the dialogue. And it's not easy. It's not easy because when you're impaired, and it's literally an impairment, you know, on the masculine, the level of sensibility. Come back to the sexuality. Who don't know that men are super susceptible on the sexual level? They always fear to not be enough performant, not be enough strong and powerful. They feel completely powerless constantly. So they're really fear that the woman say, oh, you're not so good, you know, my dear, the neighbor, it's much better. You know, this is a constant fear of the masculine, because masculine is strength, it's not power. And strength is there to sparkle, to start something, and for the motricity, you know, to bring energy, pure energy. And it's not made to stay in the time, but energy make the fun, bring the life in everything. So we need to not hurt this masculinity, but this masculinity feel much less. It's exactly like someone who have just 25% of vision. They need big glasses. 25% of audition. They need, you know, to have some tools in the ears to listen properly. And sexually the same. So they need to have the help of a woman who feel everything to direct them. It's exactly for me the best picture of the perfect couple. That woman share the sensitivity to conduct the man in a proper way. All women know that sexually. At the beginning, you don't dare when you start a new relationship, but with time, you say, "Oh my God, I'm going to pass all my life with this guy. I'm better to educate a little bit on him. That, well, go slow, take your time, be gentle. Don't do that. Yes, that is good. That is not good. This is not the time. This is a time." You know, you have to direct with sensitivity, and you have to pilot this strength, this volcano strength, to have a better life. And it's very important to do it. But of course, if you don't do it properly, you could shock, block, humiliate the man, and finally you ruin your sexual life, because it will be very, you will be cut in the relationship. What is important to know is that according to studies show that 40% of women are very unsatisfied in bed, but other studies show that it's more 60. So when you realize that, in fact, we tend to diminish all the time the reality to avoid to shock people. But let's take the 60% of women very unsatisfied. Why? Because it's like they feel like a field and a tractor plow them constantly, with a lack of imagination, a lack of sensibility, and a lack of connectivity. Remember, woman, connectivity. I mean, femininity, connectivity, sensitivity, connectivity. So, of course, that women have the possibility to enlighten men on the sensitivity, to teach them. It's a work, of course, it's a work, but for which joy? When the connection is done and the men understand that they have to be directed and help, and not to be so proud of themselves, they can really learn to become gentlemen, physically, sexually, and either in their behavior. And emotionally, it's exactly the same for women. Women are masculine, so they are a bit blind, they're a bit deaf. You know, they just 25% of sensibility, but a lot of emotional motricity. So please let you be driven by the sensitivity of men. Ask what they want, what they like, how they feel. When you always want to emotionalize everything, try to see if it's good, if it's welcome, and try to let you direct it. So you strength, you emotional strength that puts all the life in the emotional life is very, very appreciated. But of course, you could feel constantly that, oh, he don't love me enough. I am on purpose or not. You know, this exactly this emotional fear to be rejected, to be abandoned, to be not loved by women. It's exactly the same as a physical one for men in sexuality. Oh my God, I was not enough. And when I see movie about that, oh my God, I'm so weak and all that. So this is not healthy. We have to understand that we are not designed to be this type of machine. We have been designed to bring energy, but to be direct by the emotional sensitivity. In the brain, it's like that. Normally, the senses in the cortex are there to pilot the motricity. But in a couple, we share that. One is more the motricity, the other is more the sensibility. We are like two brains, two hemispheres, and we have to share them. If we don't share it, this is just accident. The motricity will just hurt, and the sensibility will just got frustration, like we see in the studies showing that 60% of women between 40 and 60 are just frustrated, and the other, perhaps they don't have sexual life, or they have educate the relationship, and they have a wonderful connectivity with the men they are. So, but for men, in the same. Men tend to be very sad emotionally, very lonely, and they tend to escape the couple because they feel constantly threatened, constantly aggressed, and by this something which is very rough, very tough on them, very direct emotionally, and they're fed up. They just give up and they escape, and they develop their own emotional life with friends or by themselves, and they prefer to be alone than to be bad in couple. Emotionally talking, like physically for women, this is the same. And mentally, again, the same situation arrives. Men tend to be so direct, so rough, so tough, and women have been taught to just shock absorb that. The feminine is so absorbent. So they are a bit turned to say, oh, this guy is very direct, or is very sincere, or is very frank, or of course he has his quality to be so frank. And finally we tend to say it's wonderful. It's not designed to be that. Yes, energy is good. So good motricity, mental motricity, it's someone who wants to say things, to expressing, it's very nice. But please, could we be educated so it become gentlemen and not just rough and tough people who impress the other but to dominate them, like if the brain was split in two and we have just this motricity without any sensitivity. So that creates cruelty, and that creates to be very destroying on the other, especially on women when you talk the emotional, the mental level, but on men when we talk on the emotional level, and spiritually when we talk about the feminine level, because spiritually that's what women do. They feel less, so they impose, they will, they always want to have spirituality, but by the book, in the church, in very you know, in very square mind. But men, the spirituality is very sensorial. So they don't need so much. So it's very important to respect it and to be directed to by the sensoriality, the spiritual sensoriality of men, who bring the couple to experience more things than to be by the book or to be constantly on this spiritual motricity that could be very dominant and very rough and violent on the spirit of a man. So all that is so important to take care of, to have a much better couple. And so what we have in that, the key is again the nonviolent communication for the feminine side. Nonviolent communication is based on humility, and humility is the ability to express how you feel yourself, to help the other to just react to that. When the brain, when we have the right sensation and we have the right information, the motricity part adapt to it and obey and submit to it. So if the feminine part don't talk, don't give the information, how the masculine could be better? How, and after that we reproach it because we cultivate and we worship a very rough and tough masculine side on every level. And we say, oh, the men are like that, they need sex, or the women are like that, they need emotion, and they need always spirituality, but in a rough way, and men have the right to just destroy with their mental everything. Oh, well, we have to adapt to that, this is the way it is, this is life, no, it's not, this is survival, this is not life. Today we are in an era where we could really not mixed, but united our sensitivity and motricity, our feminine and our masculine. And when we do that, we start to talk about couple and not just fight and not just dominance. And when we are this dominance, we need a savior. So what we do, couple that hurt themselves constantly, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, what they do, they try to find compensation, they try to escape, they would try to take an activity to breathe a bit, or someone to breathe better, and of course the couple is destroyed. How could we talk about couple when there is just an escape and it's become a jail? So that's not fair. But the key again is in our femininity. It is in this power to feel. That's what we do as human. We first feel things, and after that we act. We don't put the action first. Sometimes, yes, of course, in the survival mode, in certain situations. And when we are educated and the senses are and the communication in the couple is very, very well educated, at that time the masculine can start by act, because this is an intelligent action. This is an action who has been so educated that it becomes something very subtle, very, my word in English, very beautiful. And the action has a brain, the action has a sensation. So it's an action that's become just pure and beautiful and useful and bring really life and don't destroy anything. So this is the next step. But first, we have to be educated by the emotional. So please, all of us in our couple, it's about time to use our sensitivity and to dare gently to express how we feel physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, to our partner, so we can start to have a real interface, a real exchange, and create a one brain, a one heart, a one body. and have and start to create, to talk. When we have a real couple, what do couple? They create children, but they create emotion, they create intelligence, they create spirituality, unity, brotherhood together. So thank you to have listened to me, and I say goodbye and see you another time. Bye bye.